Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be making my Dallas Stars 2018-2019 lineup predictions. So I thought it would be fun to make some predictions on the lines and the lines that we'll see in the regular season. Now there's quite a few prospects and quite a few young players that are vying for a potential spot with the Dallas Stars next season, and with training camp and preseason starting, we'll see a lot of competitiveness. And of course, with Jim Montgomery becoming the new head coach, we'll probably see a lot more different lines we saw last season with Ken Hitchcock. So I think there's going to be a lot of differences in last season, and hopefully that means some good change in the locker room and some good change with the overall performance. With this Dallas Stars team, there's a lot of options, and especially on the defense, we can see a lot of moves and a lot of different lines than we saw with the Hitchcock era. So for me, it's hard to predict what Jim Montgomery will do, but I do have faith that he'll do the right thing. Now in this video, I'm going to go through the forward lines, the defensive lines, the goaltenders, of course, the both power play lines, both penalty kill lines, and the extra guys. Now, bear in mind that these are my predictions. If you have any different opinions, make sure you tell me down below. Now, for the forward lines, we're going to start with line 1, and what I want to happen and what I think might happen with Jim Montgomery is I think we'll have a Ben Sagan but Valeri Nichushkin pairing with those top 3, and I feel like that could work very, very well. With Ben and Sagan, they usually had Radulov on that right side the entire year, and yes, it worked, but I feel like with Jim Montgomery, he's going to want to spread it a lot more. He's going to want to spread it out a lot more than Ken Hitchcock, so I feel like having Nichushkin there, who came out from Russia, to return back with the Dallas Stars. I feel like having him have a fresh start with Ben and Sagan will definitely help his career, and it'll also play very, very well with those two. With that second line, I think we'll see Mattias Janmark, Jason Spezza, and Alex Radulov on there. I feel like having Radulov on that second line is definitely going to spread out the scoring there. With Spezza, as much as I hate having him on the second line, I feel like he'll have a bounce-back season. We'll see how much he does, but I feel like he'll have major improvements this next season. And Mattias Janmark, who I think is a top 6 winger on a lot of teams, he's very talented, and I feel like if he's consistent next season, we'll see a very good line from all of these three. On the third line, I have Devin Shore, Radek Faksa, and Tyler Pitlick. Faksa should be a second-line center, but I feel like with Montgomery, he's going to really be welcomed with Jason Spezza, and I feel like with Radek Faksa, he's one of the best third-line centers in the league right there, and he's fantastic defensively. One of the best guys in the league defensively as well. With Tyler Pitlick, I feel like he might regress a little bit last season. We saw him have a very good season last season, but I don't know if he'll replicate that. And Devin Shore, who is a center, but I think can play wing very well. And on the third line, while he was pretty meh offensively last season, he is still not a bad winger there. On the fourth line, we'll have Blake Como, who we got in free agency, who will be a very, very solid fourth liner for us, and a mixture of Martin Hanzal and Jamel Smith. Martin Hanzal's already been confirmed to miss, I think, the first month of the season, so I feel like Jamel Smith will start to get those starts, and maybe another player mixes in there to that fourth center spot, and Jason Dickinson, who was really, really average and really, really not noticeable last season. I feel like this next season, we'll start to see some more offense, and we'll start to see some more playing time for him. I feel like he'll be on that right side wing. So for that fourth line, it'll switch a little bit on the center position, but Como and Dickinson on the wings, I think will be staying and will be permanent throughout the year. Now on to the defense, you got Lindell and Klingberg on the top pairing. That's what we saw last season with Ken Hitchcock, and I feel like that will stay. That was by far their best defensive pairing, and offensively, defensively, they were both very, very solid last season. I feel we'll still see that same pairing this next season, and it'll work as good as it ever did last season. It'll be great to see how this pairing gels once again. As we saw last season, they were amazing offensively, amazing defensively, and it seemed like they had chemistry right off the bat. On the second pairing, I feel like we'll see Miro Heiskanen and Stephen Johns. With Miro Heiskanen, I was debating putting him with Honka. I feel like that would be a pretty offensive duo, but for me, Jim Montgomery, I think, is going to want another guy right alongside him that can play a little more defense and can be a little bit more disciplined there. With Miro Heiskanen, he's going to be a stud right off the bat. I feel like it might take a couple of months for him to transition well, but at the end of the season, I feel like we'll see him into a top 4 defenseman for sure. And Stephen Johns, I think, was very, very solid last season and could make even bigger strides offensively. Defensively, he was very solid too. And on that top 6, you got Mark Methot and Honka. With Mark Methot, I feel like he'll be hopefully a lot more healthy next season and will be a lot better because of it. And with Honka, hopefully he gets a little more playing time and hopefully he can show his offensive skills with Jim Montgomery. I feel like he is due for a breakout season, and with Montgomery's system, I feel like he can definitely excel in it. Same with Mark Methot, who was kind of buried in that system after being injured injured. And I feel like this next season, while he still is getting up there in age, I feel like the injuries will be less coming and they'll happen less often than they did with Hitchcock. Now on to the power play, and for power play number 1, I think this is where the Stars really stack up their stars, no pun intended. For me, I see Ben, Sagan, and Radulov all on that first line absolutely being amazing, and while you can't keep the puck away from all of them, they'll be very, very good throughout, and Lindell and Klingberg, through the first defensive pairing, will be on that power play. That power play is going to be lethal, and I could see possibly a forward supplementing Lindell, but I don't know if the Stars are too deep for that. I don't know if they have another top 6 winger that'll be worth that, but for the power play, I feel like for the first unit, it'll be very, very solid, and they'll want to stack up their star guys. For the second power play, I think that this could change a lot throughout the year, but this is a very unique power play, to be honest. And honestly, I could see a lot of guys supplementing this instead of the guys that are listed here. But for the second power play, I got Janmark, Spezza, and Nichushkin, basically putting out Nichushkin for Radulov through the first 2 lines. I feel like Janmark, Spezza, and Nichushkin will have some chemistry throughout the year, especially on the power play. And Heiskanen and Honka, I think on the power play will both be lethal, and while they make some defensive mistakes, I feel like this will be a very good line offensively, and will get the job done. Now for the first penalty kill. This is where I see Blake Como, the free agent that they got from Colorado, getting the most ice time. Sagan last season was amazing on the penalty kill, so I'm going to put him as the center for this. He was fantastic, and I think he will continue to be great on the penalty kill. But Blake Como is almost a penalty kill specialist, and he can definitely go on there. I feel like he'll definitely work there. For the defense, I see Johns being there, as he's defensively a very solid guy, and John Klingberg, who, yeah, does make some defensive mistakes, but he is much improved than he was 2 seasons ago. So I feel like that will be a very solid and very steady pairing. For the second penalty kill, I got Radek Faksa and Jamie Benn. For me, I want to see Sagan and Benn both in the penalty kill, but on different lineups. I feel like Faksa is a brilliant defensive guy, and having him on the second penalty kill is going to be absolutely disgusting. And Jamie Benn is a very solid defensive guy as well, as we've seen the last few years. And for the defense, Methot will definitely be very solid if he's healthy, if he continues to be that way. He's a very good defensive guy, at least. And Lindell, I think, while he is a lot more talented offensively, is not really doing too much, and it isn't a liability on the defensive end. Now for the extra forwards, the extra defensemen, the guys that will be scratched for most of the time. You got Jamel Smith, who I said will get most of the time for that 4C for the beginning of the year once Martin Methot was out. You got Rupe Hintz, who could make his way onto the NHL team and could supplement maybe Jason Dickinson for that 4th line in the winger spot, and Roman Polak, who they got in free agency for some reason, which is just such a meme looking back on it. And for the potential call-ups of the season, I feel like Colton Point, if, let's say, Anton Khudobin or Ben Bishop were to get injured throughout some of the season, I feel like Colton Point will be a very good goalie to bring up. This is his first season in the AHL. He was dominant in the NCAA last season. I feel like if he's good enough in the AHL, he'll likely get that opportunity to be called up. And then you got Rupe Hintz, who I said will be an extra forward. I think that he'll get a call-up pretty early in the season. I feel like we will see some injuries there at least. I don't think they're going to be a perfect squad injury-wise. So I feel like Rupe Hintz is going to get that opportunity to be playing some games in the NHL at least. And we'll likely see a lot of his skills flourish, as he's an amazing prospect. And I can't wait to see him in the NHL. And for my last potential call-up, I got Gavin Bayruver, the defenseman. I think he's like age 25. He's been great in the AHL for the past couple of years, and he's at that time where he will likely get an NHL call-up if there is some sort of injury on that defensive core. Roman Polak is that 7th defenseman, so he will likely get subbed in besides Bayruver. But if it is up to Montgomery, he could get some starts there, especially if there's a ton of injuries. We could see that 25-year-old defenseman get some opportunities. But all in all, it's a new era for the Dallas Stars, the Jim Montgomery era, where we hopefully see a lot more speed, a lot more skill, and hopefully a lot more playoff wins. But the team that we have now, I think, is a definite playoff team. If we don't make it, it's going to be a pretty sad season again. But I feel like Jim Montgomery is a very solid coach, and whatever lines he goes with, I think he'll do very, very well, and the Stars will do very, very well. Again, he's a much smarter guy than I am, so when I'm making these predictions, take it with a grain of salt, because, again, I'm not a coach. I'm just going from what I've seen for the Dallas Stars in the last couple of years, and, of course, I have that fan bias, too. But I'm hoping that it'll be a bright year for the Dallas Stars. Hopefully, we do make the playoffs in a tough Central Division, but nonetheless, I think this team is good enough to contend for it, and I feel like this team, if used right with Jim Montgomery and the system, it'll definitely work out. And this team right now is a playoff team. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about these lines? Do you agree with my lines? Do you disagree? What guys would you have where? And of course, where do you think Jim Montgomery will put these guys throughout opening day and throughout the whole season? But that's what I have for today, guys. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. Again, tell me below, what do you think about my lines? Do you agree or disagree? I was a little bit sick today, so you might have already noticed that already, so forgive me. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.